Today we're going to take a look at the Toyota Venza, a car so confusing that even Toyota is not 100% sure what it is. And we are going to decide if it is a buy or if it's a bust. That's right, for this high miles review, we're looking at the 2011 Toyota Venza. It has 205,000 miles on it. It is just an extremely confusing car to me. It is like half Camry, half Highlander, half Sienna. It's too many halves. I'm confused, you're confused. All the other Toyotas that I've driven so far for these reviews have actually held really, really well. They have been all buys so far. We're going to go through the common problems, the good, the bad, the ugly on this Venza, and then decide if it's the right high mileage car for you. At first glance on the outside, you can see that the paint and everything has held up quite well on the Venza here. It looks pretty nice. Now, this is a little bit newer than some of the high mileage cars that we check out. So no surprise that the paint and everything has held up well. And generally, Toyotas do pretty good in that department. As far as styling on the outside, I have no idea. I think it actually looks the most like a Toyota Sienna mixed with probably a Camry. But Toyota kind of said it was more like the Highlander, so I'm not really sure. As far as rust, there's no big issues or anything like that. It is in the Northeast, and it is held up remarkably well. The only real wear I notice on the outside is the tops of the headlights are a little bit sun damaged. Under the hood here, we got a very quiet running 3.5 liter V6 that makes 268 horsepower and 248 pound-feet of torque. Toyota did offer a 2.7 liter four-cylinder for these, and everyone says that they're terrible. This is not a review on that car. If we get one someday, we might do that, but they just said that they were wildly underpowered. Now, Toyota is known for being reliable, and this powertrain is no different, but there is a few common problems that we want to touch base on because you might run into them. The big one with the engine, and this car actually has a little bit as well, the side of the engine is pretty black, and that's because the timing chain cover has a tendency to leak oil. You can fix this, but it is somewhat involved to get that done, so I would look for oil leaks underneath of this. The other issue under here is the front and rear differential. This is the all-wheel drive model. Also have a tendency to leak. So really your problems on this car is you want to get underneath of it. One, you want to look for rust if you're in the Northeast. Two, you want to look for leaks coming from either the front or rear differential and the engine itself. Might as well look at the transmission while you're down there as well. The transmission is a 6-speed automatic in these, and they are known to be pretty reliable. Other than those leaks, these are pretty reliable. There is always things you want to look out for your check engine lights and things like that. This car does not have one on it, but EVAP is always your number one, so you want to check out for that and just keep up with your regular oil changes and maintenance. As we open the door to look inside the interior to look at some of the wear and tear, you'll see that it actually shows pretty well on the camera. The seats do have actually a little bit more wear than I've seen on some other Toyota vehicles and some other manufacturers. Definitely creased pretty good. They're a little bit dirty, but that I'm not going to hold against them. There is no tears, but I am surprised at the wear on the leather. Inside here, it's actually pretty comfortable. This is a very familiar interior if you've been in other Toyota vehicles of this same generation. And Toyota drastically improved the design of their interiors over the previous years and the previous generations in the mid-2000s, which I thought were pretty terrible. This interior has worn okay. I know I mentioned the leather showing a little bit of wear that I thought was extra. The steering wheel also does. And honestly, the center console is one of the cheapest feeling center consoles. The center slides here. The doors are broken. I recently reviewed a Sienna, which is the same sort of design that Toyota was going for, and it had a lot of these broken doors too. So Toyota really just kind of cheaped out on some of the plastic inside here, and there is still a fair amount of plastic. That just lets you know you're not in a luxury vehicle for sure, but I am disappointed in some of the wear and tear that these are susceptible to. As far as electronics, everything works, everything functions. Windows go up and down, your switches, your radio knobs, all of those things work pretty well. Now, this one does not have navigation. The ones that do, That's getting pretty antiquated at this point, but that's across all manufacturers. The other thing that's common across a lot of cars is AC issues. This one works good. I did not see much in regards to AC issues in these cars. As far as comfort, the seats are okay. They're not my favorite seat in the world. It is pretty spacious up front here. It feels a lot more like you're really far from the front of the windshield, and it feels like you have a long, long front end sticking out there. Definitely feels somewhere between a van and an SUV, and I'm not really sure which it's more like. In the second row here, and I gotta say, this is where this shines, this design shines. The wagon, van, car, SUV thing that this is. There is so much space here. I have lots of headroom. I have lots of legroom. The seat is comfortable. You could fit 3 people fairly easily. It just feels huge back here. It's like, it's definitely a nice place to be. You could road trip back here. And I really have no complaints. I think they did a really good job on this second row, and it really shines for the design. There is not a third row in this one, so that gives you that extra space that some of the third row SUVs take away. As I'm sitting back here, I did flip this cup holder down, and I just noticed how cheap some of the plastic is. I know I already set it up there, but it continues back here. This is like a wood grain that they didn't even paint properly. Toyota just kind of dropped the ball on some of this stuff with their plastic and their finishing touches. All right, we are out on the road now in the Toyota Venza. And I gotta say, I'm very intrigued by this car because I actually, like I could see myself driving one of these. I don't hate station wagons. I'm kind of intrigued by hatchbacks and kind of oddball cars, and this is definitely in that category. As we pulled out here though, power feels pretty good. We're gonna get on it here. Actually, power is pretty good. Power is a little bit more impressive than I thought it was going to be. Definitely pretty good there. I will say there is a lot of road noise. I'm not sure if it's exactly, could just be these tires, but it is noisy, and there is some clunks in the suspension too. Not terrible. The steering itself is tight, but I'm definitely noticing a very, very rough ride. We are on a back bumpy road, but it is not, it feels like an SUV, much more than a car. One of the things that I should note is these are known for warping brake rotors. They go through them, even the Toyota brand ones, and they just warp them. Yeah, the whole car shakes when you hit bumps. I don't know if you can hear that through your through the camera there, but it is noticeable. It's very much like a minivan. If you ever hit a bump in a minivan and it, like, you know, kind of resonates inside the car, that's very much what it's like in here. Fuel mileage on these is okay. I'm not gonna like give it some great score or take too much away. It's 18 and 25. That city is not great. That leads me to believe that's more like minivan SUV than car numbers there for sure, and this is a little bigger than a car. The one thing is it only tows 1,000 pounds. Now, I don't think anybody's really getting their Venza out to tow, but if you want to take the boat to the lake or really do anything towing, you almost can't. That is definitely, like, that is small car numbers for some cars. The thing I always say about Toyotas is that they're boring. The driving experience is boring. There's nothing that stands out to you, good or bad, as you're driving. It's just a car. This, I gotta say, the power stood out to me, so that was a good thing. The actual driving experience is not good. It is, maybe this one, the suspension is worn out from the 200,000 miles. This is a high miles review, so I gotta talk about it. I can't imagine that these were this rough from the factory, but it is not a good driving car. It drives like a mixture of a minivan and a large SUV. That's what I would call it, and that is not a compliment. Toyota discontinued the Venza in 2015 and just brought it back more recently. And if this is how they drove, I can kind of see why they discontinued them. They did not sell a lot of them. I knew that. They're very kind of rare. They're not that rare, but you don't see them that often. But yeah, I'm actually very, very surprised on this test drive. Back from our test drive, and we are going to decide if this is a buy or a bust. I know I've harped on how no one's really sure what this thing is, and Toyota wasn't sure either. Their slogan for this car was, "You're more than one thing, and so is Venza." So they knew that they were putting a car into a slot that doesn't really exist. While I don't hate the size of the car, I actually think it's kind of functional. I'm kind of intrigued by whatever it is, whether it's a station wagon or whatever. This is something that I would almost use in my life exactly how it is. However, the big letdown for this is the driving experience. I think the driving experience is far more, even larger SUV. It feels just like a sort of big SUV. It shouldn't. It should feel like a car, and it doesn't. It is rough. The suspension all clunks, and it's just not refined. I've been really impressed with how Toyotas have driven so far in these reviews, and this one just did not hit the mark for me. With prices on these around $8,000, you are still getting the Toyota reliability, but you're not getting great fuel mileage. You're not getting a great experience driving. And so today we are going to call this a bust. It is a thin bust. Like, if you are okay with some of those things, I think it's going to serve you well in the reliability department. Otherwise, I think it's just kind of an oddball, and I think there's better options out there that drive better, are just as reliable, and are even probably a little bit cheaper. So that's why we're giving it a bust, but it's a tough line to walk on this one. If you guys have a Toyota Venza and you want to let me know your experience with them, if you love it, you hate it, if you think I'm crazy and wrong, put your comments down below. I want to hear all your guys' thoughts on this Toyota Venza. Unfortunately, today, Toyota didn't pull one off. Thanks so much for watching.
Yeah. Please tell me that I can't, that I won't, that I fail, that I'll never make it out, yeah. Please tell me all the bad, never good, fill my head full of every single doubt, yeah. Please say any negative thoughts, I pop off when I hear people say I cannot. I get off to the thought of proving everyone wrong, I won't stop to the top, so